Within hours of the Tucson shootings, the story was being covered almost non-stop by traditional and online media outlets. As is often the case with breaking news, some of the initial information was incorrect. Here to talk about how different types of media cover the shootings is ASU journalism professor Tim McGuire. Tim, always a pleasure. Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Let me start with an anecdote. Yesterday, I'm in my office and someone comes in and says he's angry with the media. Says he's angry with the misinformation of us covering the story, angry with the speculation, just generally angry with the media. What do you make of that?
First thing I would have asked him is, what's the media? That's one of our real challenges today is, what is the media? Is the media social media, Twitter, Facebook? Is it CNN and NPR? Is it the Arizona Republic? What is the media? You've really got to be very specific, because if I'm giving a grade, I have to grade all of those individually.
Well, without going all of them individually, let's cluster a few here. Give us a grade. Let's start with things like traditional media, newspapers and such.
I thought the Arizona Republic did a heck of a job, but they had an advantage. They only came out and they published about 1 o'clock at night. They had all day to sort through all sorts of rumor and innuendo and nail down fact, and as a result they were able to produce a really fine report that was by and large trustworthy. It wasn't guessing, it wasn't yakking. I thought the radio and broadcast outlets were in a tough spot. That story was breaking during the day. They didn't have a lot of information, and yet somebody said, talk. And when you have to talk without much to say, you're bound to say something a little silly, a little inaccurate. You're going to get bulletins that are going to come fast and furious. Certainly NPR, CNN, a couple of the others were wrong on the death of Congressman Giffords, thank God. They were not following all the principles they knew they should have followed because they were so intent on speed.
Okay, one of the reasons they're intent on speed is the rise of social media. How did social media do this weekend?
Well, in my view, social media was following big media. Everything, I follow Twitter. I'm on Twitter, and I was on Twitter all day Saturday. And they were reporting what NPR and CNN were doing. A lot of people wanted to lay this at the feet of social media, that they got it wrong. Well, they were reporting what big media was doing. I didn't see social media as the problem this weekend at all.
You have talked and written about slow news and the idea that newspapers, even in this environment, might have an advantage because they get to slow things down. Talk to us about that.
Well, it's a concept developed by my colleague here at the Cronkite School, Dan Gilmore. In this era of instantaneous information, he advocates, and I agree with him, that we need to get facts quickly and slow on speculation and analysis. We have to make accuracy our absolute bedrock and slow everything down. And I do think that this weekend the Republic had a real advantage because they were the slow news operation.
When, though, does slow news become too slow, especially in this environment?
Well, certainly we demand instantaneous information. There's no question at 11:30, quarter to 12 on Saturday, I wanted to know what was going on. I want to know what happened down there. Well, people didn't know yet, and we have to have some patience. The fact is, 10, 15, 20 years ago when I was in the newsroom, we used to cover major stories all the time, and I remember distinctly how a story would break midday, we'd be operating on some assumptions. About 5:30, 6 o'clock, you find out many of those assumptions were wrong. We had the time to fix them, to get them right. Today we don't have that.
We also don't have filters for a lot of the social media, whether it's Twitter, especially Twitter because it's just so quick, but Facebook as well, online blogging, these sorts of things, live blogging during events and these sorts. Are we just evolving toward that, or have we lost those filters forever?
Well, some have. I mean, certainly the newspaper is the one place that has kept many of those filters. I listened to some radio and TV the other day that didn't have many filters at all. And certainly, as my wife says, the only filter between you and tweeting is your thumb. And that's not much of a filter. And so, yeah, some people, I saw some really ill-advised statements on Twitter on Saturday. And you're right, the lack of filters is changing that. One of the things we've got to do, since we don't have built-in filters, is maybe we all have to count to 10 a little bit more than we have been.
Except that, again, if you count to 10 too slowly, or if you by the time you get to 9, you're already being lapped by folks who are getting more attention.
And does that matter?
Well,
that's the real question.
Here's another question.
We are so focused on speed,
yes,
and yet I think what we're learning is that credibility is far more important. What's your value? If your value is speed, then you go flat out and you let it fall where it might. If credibility is your goal, well, that says I'm okay with being 20th, and because I'm going to make sure I have it right. ABC, I did not watch ABC, but they're being quite smug about the fact they had it right through the day. They held off because they didn't meet their fundamental reporting standards. Every good journalist knows what those standards are. What we're finding out now is NPR and CNN kind of blew them off on Saturday.
And that brings my last question here regarding getting it first. Obviously, in the old days of 4 newspapers in the same town and those sorts of things with deadlines, getting it first was a big deal because you got it first and you were the only one who got it. In this age where if you get it first and I get it 16th, there's a difference, could be 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Is getting it first still crucial in the news business?
What's my brand? Is my brand that I'm going to be first? Or is my brand, you can trust me? And I think that's a choice many people have to make. And right now, one of the reasons we're talking is not very many people are saying, my brand is you can trust me.
All right. Tim, thank you so much. We appreciate it.